Hello, my name is Teresita Blanco de Artsy Sister, and we're continuing with Saturnastra, Deasura. This is chapter 7. Much to Lorraine's chagrin, I went ahead and filled the paperwork to free Clotilda, and I explained my cause to the notary, who quickly did as I desired, and copies were also sent to Veragero and the other important cities to inform the proper authorities that the person known as Clotilda Deasura was a true citizen of the empire and could enjoy all the rights and protections of the state, etc. Clotilda did not have a last name, and it was required in the forms to gaining true citizenship, and I gave her my last name, which is Shura, and on paper my name is Dea, last name Shura, though it was expected to be pronounced as a whole name, and some nuisances were common about the elven kind, and Clotilda was at a loss with the sudden news of her freedom, and she did not know what to do with herself. And Lorraine sure was in a frenzy at losing her favorite punching bag, and unlike other holds, assaults on another person outside of a duel were penalized by the law. And unlike that other time, Lorraine challenged me to a duel inside the temple, making a scene, and this time I simply said no. "You are inside a temple, behave yourself, little girl," I said sternly to rile her up. And Lorraine continued making a scene and cursing Leaf's name and telling everyone that he was a terrible husband. And since he was starting to lose credibility, one of the roundaboutness goddesses took it upon herself to drown Lorraine. And this particular goddess answered by the name of Hydrix. And like the Greek gods of old, she was a polymorph, and gods either had one form or came wearing different faces, and usually lesser gods were polyform. Hydra swiftly manifested from the water, and using the stones and salt and other minerals found naturally in the ocean to craft for herself a naturally silky flesh. And the rather frenzied seahorse-looking mermaid Hybrid came towards Lorraine and quickly dumped her into the pool with all of the other marine creatures. And Lorraine tried her best to run away, but to no avail, and Leaf, who was coolly watching the event from afar, said nothing while his wife was being drowned. And he waited a whole 3 minutes before telling Hadris to let his wife be. And after waiting for another 3 minutes, Hadris allowed the limp body of Lorraine to float to the surface. And the guards in the temple went into the water to fetch her and did their best to revive her, but alas, they did not know CPR. And dealing with drowned folk was not something that they regularly managed, and walking up to them, I said, "Out of my way, I'm going to deal with her." And this dramatic help cleared a path for me, and first I placed my ear to her mouth and nose to see if she was breathing. With no breath or pulse, I placed her head on her back, and following I started chest compression until she coughed out the water, and I then placed her on the side to help her finish coughing out the water she swallowed up. And Lorraine made a disoriented motion to get up, but she staggered and started falling down again. And I held her frame, and some of the priests together with me were dragging her out of the temple. Leaf did not seem the beast concerned, and rather he had a look of disappointment, and I mirrored his expression back at him, which made him turn away, feeling ashamed. And just because people don't behave in a convenient fashion is no reason to wish that they were dead. And indeed, Leaf had prayed in his heart of hearts for Lorraine to die, and today Hadris had answered his prayer, if only for a brief 2 minutes. And Lorraine was still not out of danger, and I ordered the guards to have her changed and wrapped in warm blankets, and the water in the pools were usually unnaturally cold even during the summertime. And Robert too came to the scene, and together with Clotilda they busied themselves around the trembling maiden. The sun had finally fallen upon the dreadful hectic day, and Leaf had his wife sent back home in a carriage, and he hoped that this would be the first and last time she would make a visit to his temple. And once again I had caused problems for those who surrounded me with my brash actions, and he said that even when you do the right thing, there can be unforeseeable negative consequences. I guess it'll take time. Anyhow, I followed along with Bravo to see if there was any permanent damage on Lorraine. And it was common among the spiteful goddesses to cast curses, and to shed desire to remove my armor and pass the tip over Lorraine's flesh, as the golden borders were known to glow blue when coming in contact with a curse. And it was a handy visual tool for those who lack any magic, and the scar she scholars in the joints connecting the scapula with her back, and it plainly showed a black number 39 on her back. "What does it mean?" asked Bravo, staring at the number. "It is a type of curse, and I'm not too familiar with its specs, and divine curses differ from traditional ones. However, they all have their roots based on the universality of numbers, and since this land has 0, the curse of 39 is the same as the others. And traditionally, it is a combination of the curses 3, 5, 7, 11, and 15, and in her case, it is like a countdown. She has 39 days to perform a certain task, or she will perish. I explained. You can't be serious, exclaimed Rabo. Well, how would you explain the number then? I asked, pointing at it. Tattoo perhaps, started saying Rabo, when Clotilde shoot us both out of the room. And truth be told, I had no idea what the number, or if she had it before. And I was certain it was a doomsday timer. And to investigate the matter, I went back to the temple to see Leaf. And as soon as he saw me, he stopped his dance practice, his shirt, and went to speak with me. And he had a tired, dogged look on his face, and I asked him plainly, did you tell Idris to curse your wife? No, said Leaf, not amused by the insinuation, and he was still irritated and had a headache from the excitement of the afternoon. I left his side and went towards the pool, and I stood in the middle of all four pools, and using the noise cardinal points, I started singing, and like the psalmist of yonder, I beckoned the goddess Erua towards me, and the lesser goddesses had no choice but to follow along. And after wording a silent prayer in the midst of the river, Idris finally felt like speaking. And she had only meant to scare Lorraine, and she had not placed a curse upon her, though her foresight told her what actions she had to do to undertake it to lift it. And it was rather simple, really. Lorraine had to return to 57 blades she had won from her duels to their respected owner, and apologize for her undeserved assault on the person she thought she owned. And the problem was that all the people that had left the city months ago, and others were presumed dead. And upon hearing this, I was left to ponder much on what way of getting around this entire cursed mess. Cursing was tricky business, and people normally get cursed all the time, but only very few actually stick with it. And when a curse does get stuck, there is always a way to get it unstuck, which is to increase your own faith. And if your faith is stronger than the hatred of the person who cursed you, then the curse has no effect. And getting Lauren to believe in anything was going to be difficult. I might just have to take the high road and have her pray for a miracle. And then again, you sort of have to believe that someone is actually listening for your prayers to work. After pondering this matter for a few minutes, I decided to ask for professional help. And all the data entries regarding curses to focus on casting them instead of how to remove them. And we rarely had to bother about removing curses due to our affinity with our respective higher powers. And then there were the non-existent eternal curses, but that is a matter that was discussing, since it is only a problem for those that are afflicted by them. I left the temple in search of the monolith, and I was surprised to see Karina waiting for me for a change. And she said to me, your go-between is no more, but I was able to deliver your message to Muna, and she's busy at the moment, so no responses for you today. And what's she up to that's so important, I complained. True busy work, I can assure you, and not like this part you insist on botching, said Karina coldly. Can I help you with something? I said, gesticulating with my hands. Sighing, she said, sadly no. Can I help you? How do you remove curses from a person who thinks all gods are useless? I asked plainly. Hypnosis, maybe, or a lobotomy also helps, and perhaps some narcotics, said Karina, whose mouth slightly twisted into a grin. If you're not going to help, then I will be on my way, I said, starting to depart. And Karina then threw a rock at me, and there was nothing special about it. And turning around, I saw that it was a stone hammer fused into the stone with a petrified wood within it. And it was an interesting ancient relic, to be sure, but other than that, I did not see what was the point of it. What is this? I asked. The first stone hammer ever made in the entire universe, said Karina. Sure it is, I said, unconvinced. There is a dead Hatisha goddess imprinted into the hammers, and with enough faith the goddess may be revived. And if traditional worship is out of the question, then a personal goddess may be more useful, explained Karina. It certainly was a shot, I said, taking the strange stone with me, 100% convinced that it was not going to work. I returned to the temple to see how Lorraine was doing, and she was wide awake as a fish, or should I say that she had fish eyes, or her eyes were more like those of a fish. I know certainly the certain flies in English. It probably makes a lot more sense than Chinese torture, I suppose. Catherine? As to be expected, Lorraine did not believe the whole curse thing, though she had seen it drop a number as soon as midnight arrived, so there was some validity to the story. And I came to Lorraine and said, the thing that the goddess said is probably not true, and mages don't do, nor do they randomly curse people except for hats, which are only powerful enough in forested areas. However, here the water element is strong, and thus fey magic is pretty weak. And Lorraine and Leaf and Rebel started glaring at me as soon as they heard such a detailed magical knowledge, and knowing the general opinion of magic, I said, you don't need to cast magic to learn about it, and most of the people caught with magic books can cast a spell to save their own hide. You certainly do make a point, said Leaf thoughtfully, and he left the room to quietly meditate on the interesting piece of information. And where is he off to? Asked Lorraine, sinking back down on her pillow. Who cares? I said, sitting down in the empty sea. And I'm thinking Lorraine a pouch containing the strange rock. And Lorraine took a look at the rock and then asked, and what is this? Some sort of talisman? No, it is just the first hammer ever made, or so I was told, and it has a sleeping goddess inside of it, and you need to wake her up and get her to lift the curse for you. Or you can try soliciting the aid of the other gods. It's your choice, I said, rocking my feet forward and backwards. You certainly are quite the odd girl, commented Lorraine, and then she added, and I probably got that curse from my last duel, and I have not seen the blue witch since my first encounter. Oh, really? How unfortunate, I said in a mocking display of emotion. I then added, looking quite serious, I heard that curses can also spread among individuals, and if you slept with someone, I saw that the curse was passed along from one person to another to another. After hearing the rabbit's face turned rather pale and his eyes widened, and he exchanged meaningful looks with Lorraine and was about to speak when I purposely got up and said, well, it's time for bed. Good night. Before they could detain me, I jumped out the window and landed in the hard stone floor, and like a fish I floundered into the nearest pound of water and stayed there sleeping till the morning came. Month 7, day 13, year 3. Dear Mona, I hope this letter finds you in good health, and as you already know, I have been having a hard time adjusting to my new surroundings, and everyone is always telling me what to do and that's a total bother, and I guess it must be pretty annoying to always get complaint letters and rarely any good news, but what can you do? You know, I am not good at this. Well, I sort of did, and this is not one of those I can come back later scenario. The door is locked and it's going to be some time before I can return home. And I have been wondering how you're getting my letters if you are sometimes out of Saturn. And I was told that the ceiling was impregnable and yet I have had them to contend with. If you know another way in here, I will be happy to know it. Month 8, day 1, year 3. Time has a way of flying, passing by slowly when you're most in a hurry. And today is the day I return home and I just can't wait. And early in the morning I came to see Leaf and I returned to him with his priestly habits. And are you leaving us already? Asked Leaf, already knowing the answer. Yes, I'm going home, and sorry I was not much help, I said, pouting. It's less than a year, and I will not try to detain you and do what you must, he said, turning to look at his scripture. And these were not his words, rather the result of a faint crying in part of the Hedrix. And what did she see that I could not? And the following person I visited was Rabble, and his attitude towards me had only soured up since the curse incident. Though at least something good came out of the entire event, Lorraine had found a god, not the god, so she was able to get the curse lifted. And Karina was right about the first hammer ever made. It indeed had a dormant god trapped within the stone. Anyhow, I said to Rabble, handing him a paper, several of my worldly possessions are sent to this address. Planning something, aren't you? Said Rabble. A war, perhaps. Just because the rebels have been spotted there does not mean that I am sending this money to them, I said, putting my hands on my back and rocking my heels. And I started to leave when I remembered something. And I left the room and closed the door behind me, and after looking left and right, I got Lorraine's sword out of my armband. And I returned inside with her rapier and then said, I found this at a pawn shop, and I think it is Lorraine's sword, and you should give it back to her. Sure, but I think the incident has put an end to her dueling days for good, said Rabble, sighing. It certainly did put things in perspective, I commented. A pity now she just loafed around the house doing absolutely nothing, fancied Rabble. That's not my problem, see you, I said, leaving his study. I just came back from my walk with Rudolph, and I took that time to inform him of my immediate departure, and he did not seem to care, so it was pretty annoying. And like before, he visited my favorite shops, but this time I did not bother to buy anything, seeing as though I was out of money. And at the end of the walk, I said to him, I have a favor to ask. And fine, what do you want? Asked Rudolph, stopping, and I handed him a sealed letter, and looking at the address stamp made him frown. And all he saw were beside the girl's scribbles, and I then said, don't bother reading the letter, it is not written in a script that you can understand, and if you ever see a strange girl in a crossroad asking about me, give her this letter. Oh, you mean that demon, he said, putting the letter in his pocket. Ah, so you know about her, I said, surprised. My teacher warned me about the creature, he said disdainfully, and he added in a serious tone, it is best to avoid crossing paths with her. Well, just give her the stupid letter if you run into her, okay? Now goodbye, and I'm going home, I said, starting to walk back. Isn't it a little foolish to leave your job half-baked? And if you leave here without completing your mission or whatever, and when your people hate you for it, asked Rhoda, catching up to me. Now it's fine, one of my brothers is also not doing much either, and if I stay here, I will be a liability. Sometimes it's best for weaklings to get out of the way for the strong guys to do all the work, you know? And I mean, you wouldn't send an infantry unit to assist in a dragon battle, would you? I was trying to construct an analogy that I thought he could understand. And what in the world are you talking about? Infantry units march with dragons all the time, or didn't you know? I was about to say something else, but I decided that the matter was not worth entertaining. I am going home, Rhoda, and that's the end of that. I came back close to midnight in a sour mood, and everything in my room looked just the way it was, and it seemed to me that Robert had treated my request like the ravings of a petulant brat. In a sense, he was right. I was trying to run away from my responsibility. And what a joke. What responsibilities. And around that time, one of the guards came to check up on me. And the night guards were always keeping tabs on me to see when and if I was to return from my nocturnal wanderings. And when he saw me, he exclaimed, Deasura, what happened to you? Nothing, I'm fine. It just takes a while to heal, that's all. And I had not taken so many blows to the head as I am supposed to, so my body just takes a little longer to regrow its limbs. I said, closing my eyes. But you're just ahead, repeated the guard, coming closer. There's smoke beneath my blanket, so there's no need to panic, I said, closing my eyes. Like she tried to return home following the route that her so-called friend Mona had given her, but instead she ran into a trap. The guard brought the lantern in a trembling hand and closer to the bedsheet, and he saw that they were stained deep red with my crimson blood. And people here for some reason like to write blood red instead of crimson blood, so I'm just going with it fast, trying to collect my ever-disappointing thoughts. Who did this to you? I heard a voice say. Someone, I said, closing my eyes, and if you don't mind, please be silent. I will pass this horrible, painful moment without interruption. I'm going to get leave, just you wait, said the voice. I sighed. Following the protocol in this situation, here's a summary of last night's breach in security, and I leave it up to the algorithm on how to best to use this piece of information. And as you may already know, I had contact with a girl named Mona outside the seasons of the Palace of Creation, and we established a sort of friendship over our silly affinity towards marine life and the color blue. And looking back, I suspect she was just agreeing with my childish whims to get closer to me. And inside this document are the original letters she sent me, and dispose of them as you see fit. And the last time I spoke with her was by the monolith of Mita. And I had used it as a meeting spot in case of monsters and other bodies. And after a brief exchange, I have a change of heart about abandoning my mission, and I said to Mona, on second thought, you're right. It would not be fair to abandon my siblings when they need me the most. I was only jesting, Pisces, said Mona, brushing back her long pink hair, and the silver sole of her left foot tapping against the floor swiftly, and she did this whenever she was impatient. Look, the path back home is not going to be open forever, and we must leave soon, or else who knows when we might secure another exit. I have been meaning to ask you whether you find this, said I asked with curiosity. From your brother, he has an interesting way of going around, though he can't seem to do it more than every 3 months or so, explained Mona. Ah, I see, said nodding. No, you don't. And maybe, look, Mona, I changed my mind about leaving, okay? And I'm sorry I made you come all this way here for nothing. I mean, you're doing stuff like missions in spywares and whatnot. Well, my only time is to gather money, and I can't seem to do, and I can't just sheepishly shy away from such a stupidity tag, I said, finishing. Mona came closer and then whispered after looking left and right. Are you doing, all you're doing is busy work. The real action is society's pathetic little world. I don't think this is just busy work. It is serious business, I said, raising my voice. No, it isn't, and there's something amiss with this world, and I can tell you that the weaklings are being sent to pit missions, and they are tearing all together, and it hasn't been like this since the Forgotten Wars, said Mona. And it was at that moment when I felt a heavy weight drop on the pit of my stomach, and I coughed a bit, trying to swallow back the bitterness started straggling my throat. And I remember what my mother had once said, all who know of the events of the Forgotten Wars are the enemy. And do you know why it's called the Forgotten Wars, Mona? I asked, lowering my head and crossing my arms. Because it is a war that never happened, answered Mona, taking a step forward. And all those who fought in it were assimilated by the abandoned, erased, puff, gone, Pisces. And at the moment the blue gloves I was wearing resonated with Mona's power, and they grasped into my skin and crawled around my very essence, and I was immobilized. And finally I said, it is truly necessary, and you go and try the whole holding a city hostage or some foolish ploy or another. Alright, that's enough for this chapter. Bye bye and God bless.